Welcome to AsiaVerse, the podcast where we delve deep into the heart of Asia's most pressing issues. I'm your host, Deepa Shri, and today we're diving into a pressing topic not just for ASEAN but for the entire world, climate change and ASEAN's role in addressing this challenge. I'm pleased to introduce our regular guest speaker today, someone who's an expert in this field, Dr. Pushpanathan Sundram, affectionately known as Nathan. He is not only a former Deputy Secretary General of ASEAN, but also a leading voice on food security and climate resilience in Southeast Asia. Welcome, Dr. Nathan, and thank you for joining us again.
Thank you, Deepa. It's a pleasure to be here and to discuss such an important topic.
Dr. Nathan, ASEAN is at a critical juncture when it comes to climate change. The region, known for its rapid economic growth, is also one of the most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. Could you start by sharing some of the critical challenges ASEAN faces due to climate change, perhaps highlighting both positive efforts and areas that still need significant improvement?
Certainly, Deepa. ASEAN is indeed at a crossroad. The region is experiencing rapid economic growth accompanied by significant environmental challenges. The ADB's 2023 annual report highlights that Southeast Asia is one of the most climate vulnerable regions in the world. Countries like the Philippines, Indonesia and Vietnam are particularly at risk from rising sea levels and extreme weather events, which are increasing in both frequency and severity. On the positive side, countries like Singapore has proactively adopted green technologies and sustainable urban planning. For instance, Singapore's Green Plan 2030 aims to reduce emissions and enhance urban sustainability significantly. Vietnam has also been making strides in climate-smart agriculture, particularly in rice production, which has led to increased yields and reduced methane emissions. However, significant challenges remain, particularly in countries like Myanmar and Cambodia, where limited financial resources hinder effective climate action. Indonesia, another key player in the region, faces a dual challenge. It has one of the largest emitters of greenhouse gases due to deforestation and peatland degradation. However, it has pledged to reduce its emission by 29% by 2030. Achieving this target requires more vigorous enforcement of environmental regulations, more sustainable land management practices. Overall, the ADB report emphasizes the need for increased investment in climate resilience across the region, with particular focus on building infrastructure that can withstand the impact of climate change.
So, what role do you see ASEAN playing in the global fight against climate change?
ASEAN has a crucial role in the global fight against climate change, especially given the region's vulnerability and significant contribution to global emissions. ASEAN is both a major contributor to and a victim of climate change. The region's rapid economic growth has led to increased energy demand, which is largely met by fossil fuels, particularly coal. ASEAN's role in the global fight against climate change can be viewed through several lenses. One, protecting biodiversity. ASEAN is home to some of the world's most diverse ecosystems, which play a critical role in carbon sequestration. Protecting these ecosystems, particularly in Indonesia and Malaysia, is essential for global climate stability. Second, energy transition. ASEAN needs to transition to renewable energy sources. Countries like Thailand and the Philippines have made some progress in solar and wind energy, but the pace needs to accelerate. The region's reliance on coal poses a significant challenge, and ASEAN must work collectively to shift towards cleaner energy. Third, climate finance and technology transfer. ASEAN can leverage its collective voice in international forums to secure climate finance and technology transfers from developed nations. This is crucial for helping less wealthy ASEAN members implement climate mitigation and adaptation strategies with international cooperation, particularly for countries like Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. Fourth, building climate resilient infrastructure. ASEAN cities, including Jakarta, Bangkok, and Manila, are the most vulnerable to climate-related risks such as flooding and sea level rise. Investment in resilient infrastructure is needed to protect these urban areas from the worst impacts of climate change. In short, ASEAN can play a multifaceted role in the global climate fight. The region must protect its natural ecosystems, transition to renewable energy, secure international support for climate change, and build resilient infrastructure. ASEAN has both the opportunity and a responsibility to be a leader in global climate action.
Dr. Nathan, let's shift focus to a topic you've extensively researched, food security. Agriculture is a cornerstone of many ASEAN economies, but is also highly vulnerable to climate change. Could you share some insights on how climate change affects food security in the region?
Absolutely, Deepa. Agriculture in ASEAN is incredibly sensitive to climate variability. Rising temperatures, unpredictable rainfall, and extreme weather events are already impacting crop yields. For instance, the OECD FAO Agricultural Outlook for 2024 to 2033 projects that Southeast Asia's agricultural sector will face significant challenges in the coming decade due to climate change. Average yields for key crops like rice and maize could decline by up to 5% if current climate trends continue, exacerbating food insecurity and leading to higher food prices. In my recent study published in Frontiers in Sustainable Food Systems, I explored how these climate impacts intersect with food security challenges in Southeast Asia. One key finding is that integrating climate-smart agricultural practices such as sustainable intensification and crop diversification can significantly mitigate this risk. For example, climate-smart practices in Vietnam have increased rice yields by 15% while reducing methane emissions by 30%.
That's impressive. What do you think are the most critical steps ASEAN should take to secure its food supply in the face of climate change?
The key lies in integrating climate resilience into all aspects of agricultural policy. This includes investing in research and development for climate-smart practices, improving infrastructure for irrigation and flood control, and ensuring that farmers have access to the necessary technologies and resources. Additionally, regional cooperation is essential. ASEAN countries must work together to share knowledge and resources, especially since the challenge of climate change do not respect national borders.
Dr. Nathan, another critical aspect of climate change that is often discussed is its impact on water security. In many Asian countries, water resources are becoming increasingly strained due to changing weather patterns, rising temperatures, and more frequent extreme weather events. How do you see climate change affecting water security in the region, and what measures should ASEAN take to address these challenges?
Water security is indeed a growing concern in the context of climate change, particularly in Southeast Asia, where many countries rely heavily on consistent rainfall and river systems for agriculture, drinking water, and energy production. Climate change is expected to exacerbate water-related challenges across the region. For instance, rising temperatures and changing precipitation patterns will likely disrupt the monsoon cycles many ASEAN countries depend on for their water supply. This could lead to more severe droughts in some areas, while others might experience increasing flooding, threatening water availability and quality. Countries like Thailand and Cambodia, which rely on the Mekong River for agriculture and fisheries, are particularly vulnerable to these shifts. Moreover, rising sea levels pose a significant risk to coastal aquifers in countries like Vietnam and the Philippines, leading to saltwater intrusion that can contaminate freshwater resources. This issue is especially pressing in Mekong Delta, where millions depend on surface water and groundwater for livelihood. ASEAN must prioritize integrated water resource management to address these challenges and invest in resilient infrastructure. This includes improving irrigation efficiency, developing water storage systems, and enhancing flood management. Transboundary cooperation is essential, particularly in managing shared river basins like the Mekong. ASEAN countries must work together to ensure that water resources are managed sustainably and equitably, considering the impacts of climate change. Besides, better water governance at the national level is needed, with policies that promote water conservation and sustainable use of resources. Public awareness and community engagement are also crucial, as local population must be involved in managing and protecting water resources. Climate change is poised to impact water security in ASEAN significantly, and addressing these challenges will require a comprehensive and coordinated approach. Water security should be elevated as an agenda for ASEAN cooperation. By investing in infrastructure, improving governance, fostering regional cooperation, ASEAN can strengthen its water security in the face of climate change.
Another significant issue tied to climate change is the impact of livestock production on greenhouse gas emissions. As ASEAN continues to develop, livestock production is becoming an increasingly important food security and economic growth sector. However, it's also a significant contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. How do you view this challenge, and what strategies should ASEAN adopt to balance livestock production with climate goals?
Livestock production indeed plays a dual role in ASEAN's development. It is crucial for food security and livelihoods, but it also contributes significantly to greenhouse gas emissions, particularly methane. The agricultural sector, including livestock, accounts for a substantial portion of the region's emissions, with methane from livestock production being a significant concern. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas, and livestock, especially ruminants like cattle, are one of the largest sources of methane emissions. As ASEAN countries develop and demand for animal protein increases, the livestock sector is under growing pressure to expand, which could further exacerbate these emissions. To address this challenge, ASEAN needs to adopt more sustainable livestock practices. This includes promoting improved animal husbandry techniques such as better feed management, which can reduce methane emissions from enteric fermentation. For example, dietary adjustments like adding fat or certain types of feed additive have been shown to decrease methane production in ruminants. Moreover, integrating livestock with crop production systems, also known as agro-pastoral systems, can enhance sustainability. This approach not only helps manage waste more efficiently, but also utilizes manure as natural fertilizers, which can improve soil health and reduce the need for synthetic fertilizers. Another strategy is to encourage the development and adoption of new technologies that can reduce emissions from livestock. For instance, biogas technology, which captures methane from manure to produce energy, can significantly reduce emissions while providing a renewable energy source for rural communities. Furthermore, it is vital to have policy frameworks that support sustainable livestock practices. These could include incentives for farmers to adopt low-emission technologies and practices, and investment in research and development to find new solutions for reducing livestock-related emissions. To put it simply, livestock production is essential for ASEAN's food security and economic growth. It also significantly contributes to greenhouse gas emissions. To balance these competing needs, ASEAN must invest in sustainable practices, promote the use of innovative technologies, and establish policies that encourage low-emission livestock production. By doing so, the region can continue developing its livestock sector while contributing to global climate goals.
So, looking ahead, where do you see ASEAN in the global climate landscape? Can the region become a leader in sustainable development?
I would say ASEAN is at a pivotal point where it can either rise as a leader in sustainable development or face severe setbacks from climate change. The region has significant potential to lead in areas like renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and climate-resilient infrastructure. However, a few critical steps must be taken to realize this potential fully. First, ASEAN needs to accelerate its transition to renewable energy significantly. While there has been some progress, particularly in countries like Thailand and the Philippines, the region remains heavily dependent on fossil fuels, particularly coal. Investing in renewable energy sources like solar, wind, hydropower is essential. This shift helps reduce greenhouse gas emissions and provide energy security in a region vulnerable to global energy price fluctuations. Second, a concerted effort must be made to build climate-resilient infrastructure. Many of ASEAN cities such as Jakarta, Bangkok, and Manila are highly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, including flooding and rising sea levels. The ADB emphasizes the need for substantial investment in infrastructure that can withstand these challenges, such as improved drainage systems, flood defenses, and climate-resilient buildings. Besides, education and capacity building are also crucial. ASEAN has a young and dynamic population that can drive the transition to green economy, but this requires proper training and education. Developing a workforce skilled in green technologies and sustainable practices will be vital to ensuring long-term sustainable development in the region. Lastly, ASEAN countries must enhance regional cooperation and strengthen policy frameworks. Climate change does not respect national borders, and a coordinated regional approach is necessary to address issues like transboundary pollution, shared water resources, and regional energy grids. Moreover, effective policy frameworks incentivizing sustainable practices and penalizing environmental degradation are essential.
Dr. Nathan, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. It's clear that while ASEAN faces significant challenges due to climate change, the region also has tremendous opportunities to lead in sustainable development. What would you say is the most important message for our listeners to take away from this discussion?
The most important message, Deepa, is that while the challenges posed by climate change are daunting, they are not insurmountable. ASEAN has the resources, talent, and strategic position to mitigate the impacts of climate change within the region and set an example for other developing regions of the world. The key is action. Acknowledging the problem is not enough. We must take concrete steps to address it. This includes transitioning to renewable energy, investing in climate-resilient infrastructure, and adopting sustainable agricultural practices. It also means fostering a culture of cooperation, both within the region and globally, to ensure that the necessary resources and knowledge are shared. Ultimately, the path forward will require the commitment and collaboration of governments, businesses, communities, and individuals alike. If ASEAN can rise to this challenge, it will not only secure a sustainable future for its people, but also contribute significantly to the global efforts against climate change.
Thank you, Dr. Nathan, for your valuable insights and for highlighting the path forward for ASEAN in the context of climate change. To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this AsiaVerse episode. We hope today's discussion has given you a better understanding of ASEAN's role in global climate action and the steps the region is taking to build a more sustainable future. As always, we encourage you to stay informed and engaged in the issues that shape Asia and our world. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay ahead of the curve with our AsiaVerse reports uploaded at our website at www.ppaa.co. Until next time, I'm Deepa Shri, signing off.